So today I thought I'd do something a little different than what I normally do. Normally I just do videos showing, my recaps of these older radios that I find on eBay and alignments and performance after the fact, and transmit and receive. But I don't do a whole lot of showing of troubleshooting problems that, that occur or fixes, that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd do something different today and kind of show that. So this is a Cobra 138 XLR that I had just finished last weekend. Replaced the signal meter and the light, recap the whole radio, full transceiver alignment, and everything was great. But the nature of working on and having these radios that are 2, 3, 4 decades old. In this case, this one I think is somewhere around 76, 77. So you're talking close to 40 years, 4 decades. And when you talk about, or you're dealing with electronics that are that old, things break. That's just the nature of it. I mean, things don't last forever. I mean, that's why we go through and we replace all these electrolytic caps. Is they eventually dry out, short, leak, explode. All those sorts of things. And really any other component in the radio is no different. Things wear out mechanically. Like your channel selector switch. Sometimes your inductors, transformers that are tunable, those break, the cores break, or any number of things. Transistors short out, burn out, whatever the case may be. Resistors vary in resistance. They drift off their value, or capacitors can do the same thing. Whatever the case may be. And so this is one of those deals. So this thing was all done, and I was DXing with it on the bench here, enjoying it. And then all of a sudden my channel display just completely blanked out. And soon after that, I smelled something burning. So I went ahead and shut off power and popped the case. And there was still, thick smoke coming from down here behind the channel selector switch. And yeah, so we had a blowout. It happens. So I thought I'd just kind of share with you what happened. Let me grab a pointer here. So here let me turn a light on. Maybe that'll help. Not really. So here on the 138 XLR schematic out of the Sam's manual, this is basically here the dimmer circuit that's feeding the channel display. And in this radio, the only thing that's on the dimmer circuit is the channel display. So basically what happened to me, this transistor right here, this 2SA 719 kilo transistor shorted internally. And when that happened, this transistor basically just overvolted this display. And there's a 22 ohm resistor right here, R197, just basically melted, just smoked. And you could still see here on the board, here's the transit, or the resistor that I replaced it with. I took I think it's a 1/2 watt that was in there, and I put a 2 watt resistor in its place, but you can kind of see down there the burnt PCB underneath it, because it was laying down flat and just melted the PCB. So, and of course I didn't have any of those transistors here available to me, so I had to order some this week. And last night I went ahead and replaced that R197 there. And I was just crossing my fingers that the channel display had survived that over voltage. I mean, normally on the contacts behind here for the individual LEDs for the channel display, when you vary your dimmer pot, it's anywhere from, like on this radio, 1.7 volts maybe to about 2.5, and I was seeing 7 to 9 volts on the channel selector switch, and I was like, oh man, this thing. And it was completely not illuminated. There was nothing illuminated on it when this happened. So I went ahead and installed that new transistor. Here's the old one here. I just had it in a plastic bag and stuffed in the radio chassis until I could get back to working on it. But anyway, yeah, I mean, externally, there's no damage to this at all. I mean, it looks fine. Sometimes these little TO92s will just, pop their top when they short out like that, but this one didn't. It just shorted internally, and that was it. But anyway, and I'm sure it's the original one that was in there in the radio. But anyway, once I got the new transistor back in the board and R197 replaced, I turned on power, and of course, I think all but 3 LEDs in the display were completely burnt out. So my worst fear on these radios, I mean, if you've watched my previous video on the green scheme one I did, is having to deal with these channel displays because they're on a ribbon cable, and desoldering that is not fun because of how thin and old, obviously 40-year-old ribbon cable. So I had to, and I had the old channel display from the other green scheme 138 XLR, which was still perfectly good. And I went ahead and desoldered that ribbon cable, got the channel display out of there, and replaced it. So she's back up and working like she should. But yeah, that's just the nature of what happens on these radios. They're working fine 1 minute, and then all of a sudden something catastrophic happens, and you got a broke radio. So, and it's just a matter of going in there and figuring out what's wrong with it. And it helps, obviously, when you got good tech data. And that's why I kind of gravitate towards these older radios, like these this era 70s 80s radios, because of the tech data that's available for them. It's just great. It makes it much easier to go through and troubleshoot. And I've got another 138 XLR sitting here that I have not really done anything with, and it's not a bad looking 138 XLR. It receives. It's also got a dead signal meter. You see, it's not moving. The channel display does work, but it's been knocked out of the radio, probably on shipping, or knocked out of the chassis right here where it mounts. It receives fine, but it doesn't transmit. So I'm gonna probably this weekend, crack the case open on this, take a look at it, and see if I can figure out what's wrong with it, and decide. I mean, if I've got the parts to fix it, then I'll probably fix it. And if it's something I don't have parts for, maybe, I don't know, something in here like a filter or a transformer or who knows what else that I don't have parts for, then it'll just become a parts chassis, which I need anyway. I've got now 2 of these that I've restored internally here, and I've got another one actually on the way. So this would make a good parts candidate if it ends up being something that I can't repair due to parts. But we'll get into it and look at it and see what's going on. I mean, I enjoy troubleshooting. It's fun. It's a fun part of the hobby here. But I just wanted to touch on that. I think a lot of people just don't understand the nature of electronics when it comes to things of this age. I mean, a good analogy would be, how many car tires do you have that are still on your car from 2 decades ago, or 40 years ago? The answer is none. They wear out. Things wear out. Or how many TVs do you still have in your house from 40 years ago? Most people are going to have to say, I don't. I have modern new TVs. All my old stuff's been long since went to the landfill. And and usually because something breaks and they don't want to fix it, or whatever the case may be, or you want new technology. And these older radios, they break. That's the nature of it. It's all old electronics, that things just break. And a lot of people don't understand that. And that's one of the reasons why I won't do this type of work as like a side job or a side business, because most people are just ignorant about electronics, and they think that they've got a broke radio, they give it to you, they want you to fix it, you fix whatever it is that's broke, and then 2 weeks later something else breaks, and completely out of your control. But they look at it as, oh well, you just worked on it, now you're forever responsible for fixing every problem that this 40-year-old radio has. Nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not playing those types of games. You know, this kind of stuff is a crapshoot. You know, you could go through and do what you can to bring it back to life and make it work like it was intended to work when it left the factory, and it could stay like that for 10, 15 more years, or it could break the next day. And this was a perfect example of that. You know, I thought I was done with it, um, you know, for the foreseeable future, and as luck would have it, that transistor didn't agree with me, and it decided it wanted to short out. So it happens. It's all part of the game. Which, like I said, I enjoy doing the troubleshooting. I just don't really show it here on the bench very often because I don't know. I don't really know if anybody's really interested in that kind of stuff. I mean, getting balls deep in the troubleshooting to me when it comes to like shooting a video doesn't seem like it's be a whole lot of fun. But since I haven't really done anything like that or done a video dedicated to that, I just thought I'd show it. You know, hey, I'm just like anybody else. You know, you deal with this kind of stuff. There's going to be some broke radios and some troubleshooting involved. Always, always, always. It doesn't, you know, I guess some people might get the perception that when you do videos and you show, hey, you know, I recap the whole radio and then I line it and everything's great. Well, you know, sometimes that is the case, but a lot of times, no. There's things that behind the scenes or that you just don't want to shoot a video about, like this as a prime example that happened. And it's like, oh, I got to crack the case again and go in there and, you know, fix whatever's troubleshoot and fix whatever's broke. So yeah, you know, I don't want to present the perception that it never happens, because it happens often. That's just the nature of old electronics. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that. Yeah, so we'll get back to get the covers back on this thing, and it's fully functional again. You know, it's luckily I was able to change out the channel display without any major issues, and it sucks that, you know, that transistor blew it up for me, but you know, at least I had a spare laying around that I can just quickly throw in there and and get it back up and running once the new transistor and resistor were installed. But yeah, so 73s everybody, and we'll catch you next time. Maybe we'll do another walkthrough of a 138. I'm really enjoying these chassis. I mean, they really are cool. They've been a lot of fun. They got great ears on them. They transmits performance is on par with anything else, like a 148 or, you know, like a modern Galaxy or whatever the case may be. But they got great receive, and I like them because they're just like built like tanks compared to like a 148. This thing just is so much heavier. You know, you can just tell there's a funny line from a movie I remember, the original Jurassic Park in '93, when the two kids were in the back of the little tour car with the lawyer, and the boy picks up the night vision goggles and sticks them on, and the lawyer asks him, "Are they heavy?" And the kid said, "Yeah." He goes, "And they're expensive. Put them back." You know, and that's how I kind of look at, you know, old stuff like this. You know, when you see this kind of weight behind something, it's like, man, there was some quality went into this chassis. You know, as compared to as things kind of slowly digressed into more lackadaisy standards. You know, as the decades progressed. So anyway, 73s everybody, and I'll see you later on.